Welcome to the first installment of You, Me, Web3, the weekly segment of Lab 51, where we discuss the latest development around Metaverse and NFT topics. Today, I'm joined by our distinguished guest, Dr. Annette Doms. Many of you might know her. She's an art historian and curator in the technology-based art field, an active participant in the Web3 community, and a founding partner of xcircle. Also today, I'm joined by my colleague, Luigi, who has been working on NFT art projects and who will be leading the conversation. A warm welcome to both of you.
Thank you so much, Mark, for your presentation. And again, Annette, thank you so much for joining us today. So I want to ask you a first question from an art lover to an art lover, because I'm very passionate about the whole NFT topics, especially in relation to the art field. So some individuals now are claiming that NFTs are not relevant anymore. We've seen pages of newspaper worldwide saying that NFTs are dead. So can you share your thoughts on the current state of the crypto art market and how do you think that will influence the world?
Yeah, so of course NFTs are still relevant. Yeah, you can see our NFT gallery behind me, which is a virtual space for digital art. So means we are hanging digital art on digital walls. And so the topic of our next show that will take place at the end of November is NFT must go. Yeah, and so it's a curated exhibition bridging the tech and the art worlds. I think there's still a big need for education. So there have been so many hype cycles around NFTs. And I remember back the times in 2014 when I co-founded the Unpainted Art Fair, which was dedicated to digital art. And then, so it was the time when we started to discuss with artists about the blockchain. For example, there was Harm von Dorpel, maybe you know this artist who sold his first pieces via Bitcoin to an Austrian museum, which was the first museum ever who bought NFT art with Bitcoin, and or Stefan Vogler. Yeah, he was always also thinking about the blockchain, and the idea was behind the thought, how can I uniquize and how can I monetize my digital art files? Yeah, so it all started at this time. Also, the first NFT was minted at that time with Kevin McCoy's Quantum. And and then there have been several cycles. Yeah, there was a crash after this, and then in 2017 it was interesting, and of course then NFTs reached the mainstream or the main market in 2021 with all the things that happened, as we know, and then we have this crash in 2022, which was not because of the blockchain as technology. Yeah, so this is awesome. It was just because of bad people, and like always. And yes, so there are many people who lost money and especially who lost trust. But it's different with art. Yeah, so art as a use case for the blockchain is what is art? So art is always, it's an idea, it's a vision, it's a concept, yeah. And art is digital for the long term, yeah. So you will be happy in 10 years as well. And in comparison to the images that were sold in this time, it's different. And so it's much more than an image. And if you compare this, and then I will end my monologue, if you compare this, for example, with the Impressionism, yeah, so it was also the time, and this is what artists are doing. So they react to new technologies or mediums of their time. They do this since decades, yeah, and they also did it in times of Impressionism, and people didn't like it, yeah. So they had to show their work in anti-saloons, and so Van Gogh. So nobody wanted Van Gogh, yeah. His brother bought his works, and So NFT must go is a quote from a traditional art collector. And we use it to really to explain NFTs, and it's like you would say. So NFT must go, like you would say, brushes must go, or the camera must go. Yeah, so we have to understand NFTs is a medium, and and it can be art or used for art.
Thank you.
Excellent. Yeah. Luigi, maybe if I may jump in there, because I think that was an excellent point Annette made regarding the development of the art market. Because I think we need to see a couple of things. We've come a long way from the caveman paintings to the wooden carvings to canvas and now digital art. And as you said correctly, the medium just changes over time. However, art is there to stay. That's the whole point in a certain way. It's a cultural piece. And interesting enough, and that's I think where it gets exciting, the whole investment community is realizing that art significantly outperforms any stock market over the last 25, 50 years. You choose the time frame. And that's why it's not just a short-term gain where we need to look at what happens in 21 to 22 or 22 to 23. Oh gosh, we're behind schedule on the investment. This is a long-term plan, and as the medium changes, the artists adapt, and that creates new opportunities despite all the scandals in between, because we've had scandals in the past with fake Van Goghs, etc., etc. So that's not a new development. So I think it's super exciting right now.
You're totally right. And this is why I always advise for an art portfolio, because I'm art historian, coming from the fine art and also advising fine art, but to have maybe 20% in each art investment portfolio. Yeah, so that's good.
Yeah, I agree with you both. And thank you, Mark, for bringing up the art market point of view. And I want just to ask you, both of you, actually, a question about how do you guys feel these art market index always outperforming in the long term? Because, I mean, we've seen that the art index outperformed for the past 20, 30 years, the S&P 500, yes. But do you think that actually sustainable? Because we're witnessing artworks that are costing millions of dollars. And how do you see that in relation to the actual wealth in the world?
Mark, do you want to start? Or
I'm happy to take a first stab at it. So I think it's an excellent question. And obviously there's no guarantee by looking at the past to extrapolate into the future. I think that's the first fact we need to acknowledge. At the same time, if you look at art is, as an investment form, is relatively limited to few wealthy people. So if you look at the total stock market indexes, they are comprised by everyday investors, mom and dads. The whole world is invested in stocks. Every pension fund is invested in stocks. Art as an investment form actually only came into the limelight in the last couple of years. So what I'm trying to say is there's this huge gap in availability of art as an investment form versus stocks as a common form of investment. And that's where it gets exciting, in my opinion, because the form of digital art unlocks the potential for art to become more tradable. So suddenly you have a much larger amount of people in population who can potentially buy into art, which were not able because the individual art pieces were too expensive. Like the famed, I think it's Lint stock, which costs always above $100,000. So many people just couldn't afford to have a handful of Lint stocks. And likewise, artwork oftentimes, as you mentioned, can be in the millions. Now with digital art and NFTs, we can have fractional ownership because it's sort of like baked into the whole system. And that's, I think, where we see a huge upside potential. Now, we will have downswings of the market. We will have downswings based on technology, based on scandals, based on whatever. But if you look at the long-term trend, there's so much to catch up from. So I think the future still is very bright.
Yeah, so maybe if I can add, so the nice thing with art is, despite of the art market, art has an intrinsic value. Yeah, and if we look at art history, so this is my point of view also in university, it's all about innovation. So if we go to a museum, it's all about innovation, about new technologies, about new worldviews. Otherwise, it wouldn't be in museums. Yeah, this is so the same with digital art right now. So artists react on topics of our time, and I'm pretty sure they will be very, very high in the future. Depends on the art piece, of course, but there are some masterpieces we can find right now. And yeah, this is why curated spaces also are very important, because it's really difficult to judge if you don't know anything about digital art, and yeah, and to find the right pieces.
Maybe to just add on that point, because I think that's a very important point, talking about the curation part, which is crucial in there, because I'd say, like we see in the entire digital world or in social media, the vast majority sort of will not make it from a relevancy standpoint or from a quality standpoint. And for instance, we internally track several hundred NFT collections on a permanent basis to look at the development, to look at the trends. And what we definitely see is there's this clear separation between the long tail and the few really valuable ones, which are gaining traction over time. And ultimately, I think, Annette, that's what you're mentioning about the curation part, which is there needs to be real value in the art form. Of quick money-making attempts of saying, oh, I can also create a pixelated art form and hopefully sell it for millions, and that doesn't fly anymore. And I'm happy about that, to be very clear.
Thank you, Mark. I mean, as you already know, perhaps, like I have my very critical point of view on the whole art and art sold for millions, because I mean, many people are being critical about the NFTs that have been sold for millions of dollars, but then you see so many artworks that I would say they can be funny. Like artists have been selling air or any sort of thing for thousands of dollars. So that raises questions on, like, I think on the whole society. But Annette, I wanted to actually pick up on something that you discussed about the innovation in art. So in an art world where it's clearly innovating, there is so many technologies. We saw blockchain, but also we have AI right now. So how can individuals harness creativity to stand out and innovate? And how do you see these new technologies, especially AI, coming along in this art field? Because I mean, I'm imagining Rafik Anadol, for example, right now. He's an incredible artist. I think I really like him personally, and he makes very beautiful artworks that are selling for millions at Christie's and many other auctions. And he uses the power of AI and machine learning. That is an example, but what about the old generative art, AI artworks that we see around? Can we consider them artworks or not? And how should people navigate that?
Of course, yeah. So as a digital art gallery, we also work with AI artists. And what we have to understand is that creativity, it's a human quality, yeah? So AI is limited. So it can optimize processes and can expand creativity. But at the end, there's always a human being behind. And it really depends on who is training the AI. And there will be different results if an artist is training the AI or if a normal person like me is training the AI. Yeah. And so, for example, we also have Max Harich, for example. He's AI researcher for many years, and he was training, I guess it was Stable Diffusion, and with questions where you cannot find answers, yeah. And so what he got was abstract, like microscopic forms that look very vintaged, and we will also print it out as a vintage photography. Or Florian Adolf, who was training Midjourney with his own works, yeah. So, which is pretty clever, because if you train the AI with your own works, so you don't have any questions regarding copyright and so on, yeah. And so you always have a dialogue with AI, and this is how makes AI for creativity is really interesting. And and so there are many strategies you can use, but first of all, it's really to collaborate with the AI. And you can use automated design processes, and generative AI is very interesting, really to make variations. What we can see in the generative art, which is very successful. And I like it because, for example, if we come back to NFT, I don't like editions in NFT, because the foundation of NFT is uniqueness, yeah. And if we use or if we create generative art, so you have these variations. So it's all unique, but coming from one motive. And so of course AI has a big future and a big present right now, and it's very important also in art.
To add something in relation to that.
Pardon?
Mark, would you like to add something about that?
Right. So maybe just one point there, because I totally agree with what Annette said in terms of AI is here to stay in a certain way. And we need to accept that this is a tool, similar like the camera is a tool, the brush is a tool. And we need to learn how to use it. Now, there's obviously, from an artist's perspective, what is the benefit? There's also from a legal standpoint. And now that's where it gets a little bit more tricky. We've all heard the latest developments just this week come out in the UK with the UK AI Summit, which I think was remarkable in the sense that there is a real conversation, not years behind the development, but actually relatively close to the development of what is the legality around AI and using AI. What are the responsibilities of corporations, not artists here. But obviously there's the whole conversation going on of what happens with the artwork if it is created by AI. And we know the example. I don't recall the name of the artist, the photographer who claimed to make those amazing photos, and he was caught that those photos were actually created by generative AI. And we will have those kind of developments in the short run, I think, until we have clear also path of what was human created and what was AI created. Because I think, yes, it is a tool, but we need to understand at which point it was the tool, at which point it was actually the artist, and what was the creative process. I think that will become part of what we need to see in art as well. Because yes, I agree with Annette in saying that whether we as, I call us sort of like interested or average consumers create art with AI, or versus a artist who's doing that as his bread and butter day by day, that's a different thing. But coincidentally, the output might look very similar. And then that sort of blurs the line of what is then really art, and that becomes a very philosophical question where obviously we'd probably need more than just half an hour to discuss that.
Yeah, actually, time, like it's going very fast, and like the topics are so interesting. And I would like just to focus now, just switch the focus from NFTs to the metaverse, because it was a phenomenon coming alongside in the past years, especially in the past 3-4 years or so, even though we know that metaverses have been around for a very long time. Now, in the concept of metaverse, we've seen that a lot in the art field, like with exhibition being curated in many metaverse platforms. And actually, I would like to know, Annette, your opinion about the whole metaverses platform, and how do you, so like the Decentraland, the Sandbox, and Horizon World, and so on. What value do you think these platforms bring to businesses?
Yeah, so first of all, the question, what is the metaverse at all? Yeah, so, or maybe what is it not? And it's definitely not just a video game, and it's definitely not just a virtual space. And so the best comparison I've ever heard was by Jung von Matt Nerd. So they explain the metaverse like a planet system. Yeah, so you have many, many planets like Decentraland, like the Sandbox, like Horizon, bigger and smaller planets, or beachhead or spatial or whatever. And between the planets, we have solar systems. And these solar systems are like AI, like cloud systems, like the blockchain. And the big question is for businesses, to come back to your question, how we can transport assets from the one world to the other world. Yeah, so it's the question of interoperability.
Yeah.
And so if we think about that, and if we fix this problem, there's already solutions, but in long term there will be businesses, of course. So, for example, what already works is digital fashion. Yeah, digital fashion on demand. So this is also very sustainable. Yeah, so we have so much material in the world, and if we do simulations or digital products first, and then buy it through metaverse platforms or whatever. So there are many possibilities. So NFTs will be also part of the metaverse, because it's about digital ownership. And if we combine this, the metaverse and digital ownership, we can also talk and discuss about Web3, but this would be an own session. but there are many possibilities for digital collectibles. And just one example, if we look back to 2021, when Dolce & Gabbana, for example, sold a sweet digital wearable, which was combined with haute couture tickets and something like that. So it's a combination of many things and an extension of reality, and we don't have to have fear about all of this. So it's an evolution. Yeah, so it started with the film Tron, so everything comes from literature or maybe from science fiction. And yes, so there was this year 2022 when Facebook changed to Meta, and since that everybody is talking about the metaverse, but it's there already. So and so for business and for industrial solutions and for many things, it makes absolutely sense. And if next year, if Vision Pro is coming by Apple, so it's about spatial computing, and so I guess so it will be both. It will be hybrid worlds. Yeah, so. We have this glasses next year, and the next step will be contact lenses. Yeah, and I'm pretty looking forward for that time. So I love it.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Actually, it was incredible. I love your answer, and I would like to just make a last one to wrap up everything you said, because I would like to connect with something you said before at the very beginning, which was education of the space. It was in relation to NFTs, but the concept of education, I think, comes also for the metaverse. I know that you're also active in schools. So I would like to ask you, how do you envision the use of metaverse in the education institution? And also what potential benefits and concerns should be considered in relation to this topic?
Yeah, so I'm in the advisory board of XR Explorer Schools, and this is about spatial learning. Yeah, so it means that we grant schools it already exists and happens, that use XR technologies in their school education programs. Yeah, so and if you think about history in virtual worlds, yeah. Or also biology. So if you have a 3D heart and you can move it and you can dive into capillaries and playing with blood leaflets and all these things. So it's a completely different way of learning, and very intense. And also if we look at trainee programs, for example, in the medicine, yeah. So for surgeons, if they use simulative tools and work on digital organs first. So this is the future, and it's exciting.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I don't know, Mark, if you would like to add something about it, because I know you're very passionate about the topic of metaverse and education.
Well, I think, first of all, unfortunately, we're running out of time today, so we definitely need to continue the conversation. And I think it's very good because it depicts very clearly where you also stand with the development. There's so much going on and so many different trends. We're talking about art, we're talking about metaverse, we're talking about NFTs, we're talking about the legality of things, we're talking about the trends. There's so many different aspects to cover, and education in many ways is the starting point for consumers and for the experience. Because I think one thing we're often neglecting in the whole conversation is that many of the consumers, especially in our generation, have not been part of this development from the very beginning. So for them, it does not necessarily come naturally. And in many ways, I think the sphere, in as you know, in Las Vegas, although it's not a metaverse, it does create an impression of what the future can look like. And I think that's what we need. We need more of those cases where people can actually, in a tangible way, experience how the world is changing. And it also very nicely depicts it because it is a little, it's a sphere. It's like a world. And they're picking up what you said, Annette, earlier, of how to imagine the different metaverses. I think that's an excellent analogy. And unfortunately, with that, I think we have to end today's edition. So thank you so much for being with us, Annette. Been a
Thank
real
you.
pleasure.
Yes, maybe one last word.
Please,
Because
please.
it's all in the early beginning. Yeah, so we are in the stone age of digitization, and if we plant the seeds today, so it takes time to get the fruits. Yeah, so and all these things will be what we humans make out of it. But we have now the chance really to be part of it and to create something good for the future. These are my last words.
Thank you, Annette. I think that was wonderful in adding that, because it leaves on a very positive note. And I think that's important, that despite the uncertainties, despite the also the scandals we've experienced in the last couple of years, there is a very positive trend in this topic. And if we look at just the development of wallets, for instance, adoption rates of wallets and users on those different platforms, we're basically looking back at where the internet was in the early or late 90s, where we saw this exponential growth. And I think that's also one of the trends which many people do not really see because they just read the headlines in the news. The underlying trend is extremely strong, and the industry is vibrant. So I think we're in a very good path. So again, thank you so much. On our end, maybe just a couple of words about us at Lab 51. We do a lot of research. We do publish a lot of papers all on different topics. Education is very close to our heart. Art is very close to our heart, but there are many more applications. And we have this weekly segment here where we're trying to highlight individual topics. Today, the NFT Art part. And with that, I thank everyone for being part of this and wish you a fantastic day. You, me, Web3, next edition coming up. Thank you.